Welcome aboard for another video.
Thanks, Conductor Keith. Now, Terry, you say, what are you up to? You're at it again. Well, yes, this is a Kadee coupler right there. I've discovered a very simple way to convert O-gauge railcars to Kadees so you can have realistic switching operations. A while back, I got this G-scale tank car used, and somebody had body mounted number 1 gauge couplers on it. When I compared this coupler side to side with my O-gauge Lionel overscale big coupler, guess what? Same size. So that got me thinking, I wonder, can I use these on my O-gauge trains? And how hard would that be? Then, by curious happenstance, I noticed that Train World had these couplers. They're number 822 Kadee. Number 1 gauge, which is 1 to 32 scale couplers. Normally these are used in 1 to 32 scale trains, or even larger, on the pilots of steam locomotives. Train World had them on sale for obscenely cheap, 90% offers, like some 80, 90% off. So without having a plan, but seeing that they were dirt cheap, I bought 30 pairs. I sat and stared at them. I stared at my O-gauge train, trucks, and whatnot, and boom, it hit me. And this video is going to show you how I did it and how simple it actually is. Well, here's a spoiler for what's coming up in the video, but you'll find that these will actually mate with the Lionel couplers. So you don't need to do your whole fleet or your vintage trains if you don't want to. So far, this is the equipment I have done, plus the rear coupler of a Williams F unit. Let's just jump into my first try, which is a truck on this rail car, and I'll show you a couple lessons I learned while doing it, and then the rest, it turns out, is simple. The first thing you'll note is I do this conversion without removing the truck from the body itself because it's riveted on. So you can do this with riveted trucks too. Now these Kadee trip thingamajiggies, I forget what they're called, hang far too low, so they have to be removed. Then it's a simple matter of figuring out where to cut the drawbar. Now this is engineering plastic, so it only needs to be scored. Here I cut the knuckle off when I didn't really need to. That was an extra move I didn't need to do because, in fact, I needed to actually cut it a little bit back further. And, of course, I just scored it so I could break it off. Now, this looks all a bit rough because this is my first test. Then I do a bit of filing. Now, I'm going to explain later in this video the importance of this and why I'm doing it, so watch along. Now, it turns out that I didn't actually need to do the second hole and the second bunch of steel wire in there. I'll explain a little while later, but this was an extraneous step I did not need to do. What to do about this? You will see by watching this video that generally there's one way to mount these to most everything, but occasionally you come up with oddball little situations like this. But if you like tinkering, like I do, you'll figure it out. Tapped it quite nice. Scale modelers use little picks or sticks that they either make or buy so they can uncouple their Kadee-equipped railcars anywhere. Well, I went to Dollarama and I bought a bunch of bamboo skewers in a bag. Using the same process as I used on this Ontario Northland hopper, I added Kadee couplers to this old locomotive as well. I showed how on this side 2 bits of wire through. Really, I didn't need that. I only put 1 through here. It's solid as anything. These couplers, of course, are made for 1/32 scale trains, which are bigger. I've seen these couplers used on trains that were massively long and heavy, so they're pretty tough. I've taken this apart and I've unscrewed these. These are metal, old K-line wheels. This is a rail car that I repainted and relettered, I don't know, 20 years ago maybe. You can see how it sort of narrows to the front. So I'm going to use the same thing I did on these two, which is to take the long shank of that coupler, cut it to length. This is stamped here, so the side frames do not come off, and I can't get the wheels out. So I'm going to use a Dremel. I'm going to cut it right there, and you see how it narrows. Well, I take my big file and carefully shape it so that it fits like a key down in there. It will not pull out. The new coupler will not pull out. I put a bit of glue to hold it firm, but just, to keep it in place, I'll drill the hole down through this and use the wire as well. And this is how I'm going to do all of them. It's pretty simple. Cutting that off with the Dremel was super simple. This is soft metal and went through really easy. So using this file, it only took a few seconds to put that shape in there. You can see it's kind of a keystone shape. Now it fits snug. I didn't do very much, and I tried with 2 hands to pull that out. Cannot pull it out. It's in there snug. So there's a little bit of glue there, especially where it gets tight. You can hardly see it, but it's there. And I'll press them down and drill a hole. Voila. I mean, that's in there solid. Solid, 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 not moving solid. All right, so this one's done. And if I didn't stop to explain things, it would have taken 15 minutes maybe. Of course, these are truck mounted, right? I mean, the O-gauge cars come truck mounted. And that seems to work okay because they have large flanges and, of course, often with very tight curves. So this is O27 track, which is the tightest diameter, 27-inch diameter in O-gauge. And I'll couple on the curve. Now, I'm not going to change anything on my post-war trains. Just stuff from the Lionel MPC era onward. But remember, I'll still be able to run these with any of those rail cars because they'll still mate. So I'm about to use my Ontario Northern locomotive that Lionel made in 1981. Still has the buzzy E-unit, still has the big motor. No, not going to get the fine control I get out of a scale engine. But it works simple. If I want to spot the rail car back there, spot the rail car, come in with my pick and do what the scale guys do. Simple as that. While I was at it, I replaced the old incandescent bulb in this locomotive with an LED light. So here is John Lazar gnome, and I did show him some preview of what I was doing before I made this video. He seemed to approve. Well, this was a success, and it was super simple. I guess now I'm going to go on and convert even more rail cars so I can have realistic operating sessions. My friend Mike will be happy about that. John and I hope you enjoyed this video.